Camera live. Yeah, no, that's not a problem. When you, yeah, but it might be mirrored in. No, but I'm talking about the settings when you upload it. Something I've seen that before.
All right, good morning, everyone. Wow, sound is loud. I want to welcome our great governor, Kathy Hochul. Thank you for being here, Governor. I want to also thank Chief of NYPD Detective Joe Kenny, a longtime friend, for joining us once again. Of course, to all the detectives that are here, to the prosecutors who worked on this case. As District Attorney, I just want to offer a debt of gratitude for the many hours, hundreds of hours that went to build this case. Today, I'm proud to announce one of the largest single takedown in the history of this office. We're charging 22 men who are variously charged with conspiracy in the second degree, murder in the second degree, attempted murder in the second degree, assault in the first degrees and second degree, many counts of criminal possession of a weapon. As you can see, many of these guns are on the table, and many other related charges. In this charging indictment, we charge 33 distinct criminal acts. This is another successful takedown by the NYPD and the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office, and it's our third takedown in the last 3 months. We have a great working partnership with the NYPD, and I want to thank Commissioner Jessica Tisch for all of her hard work to continue to put the resources into solving these cases. These cases are the most egregious of the cases that we see in the county. These are the drivers of gun violence, the very small percentage of young men, particularly, who will pick up a gun, aim that gun at a person and pull the trigger and attempt to shoot them. When we take these cases down, we make our communities safer. I'd also like to give a quick update on where we are. We are at the midpoint of 2026. I know that's shocking. We're at the start of the summer, and as we approach the midway point, I want to just give a quick update to where we stand in terms of public safety. All of you know that last year was, in fact, the safest year in Brooklyn's history. It's something that I'm very proud of, something when I became district attorney, I made a pledge that I would continue to New York City also had a tremendously safe year. And since the NYPD has kept these records, we've never seen fewer shootings in this county. The good news is that the momentum in 2026 continues, and we're doing even better. There's a chart on the TV screens that have some really remarkable numbers. So far this year, in the first half of 20, a big impact. Now, this remarkable achievement for the people of Brooklyn, making Brooklyn a place where people continue to want to live and come and visit and spend money, could not happen without great working relationships between my office and our community partners who are out there also helping diffuse violence, make people stop and think about what they're doing so that we de-escalate violence before it starts. And once we know that we de-escalate that violence, there's less retaliation. And of course, our relationship with NYPD, which has never been stronger. And really, it takes all levels of government working together to achieve these results for New Yorkers. I've been a prosecutor now for more than 25 years. And I can tell you that that kind of cooperation and coordination has to start at the top. And I can tell you that the support that district attorneys have received from this governor is unsurpassed. It's not just the recent legislation that many of you have covered, strengthening penalties against ghost gun manufacturers and the possession of those weapons. And we know that ghost guns continue to be a big problem in our communities, or the fixes to the discovery laws that were really hurting prosecutors and keeping New Yorkers safe, and really a fight that she took on last year against all odds. Or it's the increase in funding, and this office has benefited from that increase in funding, as has prosecutors across the state. She secured funding for the DA so that we can continue to do this work. These cases, these investigations that we've done over the last 3 months working with Gun Violence Suppression Division and many of the local precincts take a lot of resources. But it's really her overall focus, and it's her commitment to public safety that shines through. She also has trust in the people that do this work on the ground, the police officers, the detectives, the investigators, and the prosecutors. So, Governor, I am particularly grateful for your leadership, and I know that the success that we're seeing in New York City and across the state in reducing violence is in part due to your hard work, your commitment, and really you're continuously asking about it. You know, and I'll say one last thing about this, right? Because we're talking about gun violence today. Last year, the governor came to our office. It wasn't a big press information, but you came to see how we're handling issues of domestic violence to make sure that that domestic violence continues to be dealt with in this city. So we have a real partner here. I'm grateful for you coming today, Governor, to talk about this this tremendous takedown. This takedown will make Brooklyn safer. These men that are charged in this indictment shot 26 people, killed one person, and we've also seen that a number of those people were unintended, innocent bystanders. So with that, let's hear it for the great governor of New York State, Kathy Hochul.
Thank you, Mr. DA, and I did not want to miss this momentous occasion, the largest takedown ever from this office of extraordinary, hard-working, dedicated public servants who step up every day to make sure that they work together in coordination from the DA's office to NYPD. There's no other police entity, policing force in the entire world as tough and as diligent and as dedicated as our NYPD, and I want to thank District Attorney Gonzalez and also Chief Joseph Kenny, the Chief of Detectives, and also all the teams, all the individuals who are here who made this their career and their passion. As Governor, public safety, keeping people safe has always been my #1 priority. And I'm honored that that mission has been fulfilled here today with the incredible work, as I mentioned, with all the individuals today. You know, busts like this take months of investigative work. They don't happen overnight. They take long hours, weekends, but also there's that sense of mission here that every single person who steps up to serve in these offices and these capacities shares, and we are the beneficiaries of that. I want to thank them over and over because they're often the unsung heroes, the people you see here today, who are the ones doing God's work, keeping us safe. You know, for the DAs and the police, the job is never done. You have the guns that we are accustomed to. You also have ghost guns, which we'll talk about in a couple of minutes, so I never take your hard work for granted. You know, when I first came into office 5 years ago, we sent a strong message to criminals. Your days are numbered. We're coming after you. And if you endanger our communities, you endanger our neighbors, we'll find you and we'll prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. Now, 22 members are learning that lesson here today. And today you're seeing the results of our historic investments in police and public safety as well. More than $3 billion, unprecedented investments throughout the entire state of New York, and particularly here in Brooklyn, which had seen an increase in crime at the time I became governor, and you've been serving a long time here. And now look where we are today. It is extraordinary, the work that's been done and the accomplishments we can talk about today. But also, as you mentioned, putting real money on the table for district attorneys.
Thank you.
They have to do so much more with less. And I understood that if we could allow them to expand the workforce and give them new technology and the equipment they need to do their jobs, that they could work together in a way that's going to make a real difference. And I've seen that here today. We've quadrupled the amount of money going to our district attorneys from $41 million to $183 million just in the last few years. As I mentioned, that's personnel, equipment, and helps them zero in on specific problems. They find patterns, they link crimes, and they build strong cases. What's quite extraordinary is that this is your third major takedown just in a few months. So unbelievable, unbelievable work that's being done here. And the 22 dangerous criminals who've committed horrible crimes, and I do want to point out, one of them was a ghost gun. Of all these guns, I want to point this out in particular. This looks like an ordinary gun. You cannot tell the difference at all. But this is what we know as a ghost gun, starting to show up more and more and more in these prosecutions because they're untraceable. And literally, these can be manufactured at your kitchen table with a 3D printer. And I'll talk about what we did because we do not want to see a surge in these. We have to tackle this before it gets too far out of hand. So I thank everyone who helped us identify that gun. But this gun in particular was used at that horrific shooting at the party. Teenagers, 15 to 17-year-olds, 6 of them shot, 3 of them girls, just last December. That gun was used in that violent mass shooting that rocked the people's sense of security here in Brooklyn. And now we have it confiscated. So these untraceable guns are showing up more and more. And they're trying to find creative ways to evade our laws. That's why here in New York, we're meeting the moment. First in the nation law that requires that every 3D printer sold in our state to include software that makes it impossible to build a firearm like that. I hope other states will follow. We have to do everything we can to get ahead of these criminals, stop them from using this technology and turning their kitchen table into a munitions machine place where they can make weapons of mass destruction. There's literally little pieces of plastic that they can create that allow you to have 1,500 rounds per second. So what we're going to do is talk about how to make sure that the punishment fits the crime as well, and also continue to make New Yorkers safer. You mentioned this. This is extraordinary. I don't know how many more times you can say this, but last year, record lows, and then the murders dropped 30% from the record lows? That's unbelievable. That's extraordinary. And we're building on that momentum. But no matter how far we come, this is not a mission accomplished moment, never will be. We're always letting people know that we're going to remain vigilant, continue delivering the resources, the support, and changing the laws when necessary. As you mentioned, the discovery laws and the bail laws and what we've had to do to increase penalties. Even retail theft. Retail theft was off the charts. People were just walking into stores and bodegas. Remember, they're all locked under key because no one felt secure. And we changed the laws, and now our DAs and our law enforcement have the tools they need. That's how we make busts like this one. That's how we get gangs and illegal guns off our streets. And that's how we keep our communities safe. So again, because of all your hard work here, know this, that because of your effort, there'll be more teenagers making it home safely from playing basketball with their friends. There'll be more toddlers who are not caught in the crossfire of a stray bullet. There'll be more senior citizens who can walk to the community center and meet their friends safely because of what you've done, removing these criminals off the streets and getting these guns out of their hands. And so I am here just to say how grateful I am that I have all of you here protecting the great state of New York and certainly this great borough. So thank you, Mr. DA.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, everybody.
Governor, how are you managing Democrats' fears after their losers win?
So as you just heard, this takedown today, the indictment that we are announcing, is a culmination of a long-term investigation, which has really been part of a strategy coordinated by the NYPD in my office. And it's aimed at incapacitating a very small number of violent gangs that are responsible for approximately 60% of the gun violence in this county. In April, we announced 2 indictments. Many of you were here for that. We took down a gang called the Wu and another one called the Chos. They were based in Brownsville. And last month, we were here talking about a blood set that was causing havoc throughout New York City, based in Coney Island. Today, this crew that we're announcing the takedown of is Folk Nation. Many of you have heard of Folk Nation. It's a very long-standing gang in Brooklyn. There are 2 subsets that we're dealing with in this indictment, and they've been warring with many other gangs in Brooklyn. And we see the charts here. We're looking at the Folk, where they're located at, the Bloods, where they're kind of historically been located at, and the Crips. And it's really Flatbush, Central Brooklyn, down a little bit into Coney Island. They've continued to fight with each other, and some folks have labeled this folks versus everybody. Hopefully we won't see that on a T-shirt anytime soon, but it really is that. A minimum of 207 shots have been fired in this gang war. And as I've already told you, 22 people have been shot. 3 people were completely unintended, innocent bystanders, and 1 person lost his life as a result of these shootings. I want to emphasize once again that this is not a random takedown of gangs and just because you're a member. Of the 22 men arrested in this case, 17 of them were trigger pullers, meaning that they got up, they got a gun, they took that gun, they pointed that gun at a person, and they pulled the trigger, hoping to kill them. These are some of the most dangerous individuals in our community. You know, even within our gangs, we understand that there's only a small percentage of people in the gangs that are the enforcers, that are going to go out and pull the triggers. And today, there are a lot less of them on our streets. So let's see the map. If you see the map, all of the red, what appears to be stars or shots, that's where these shootings took place. These shootings took place in 10 different precincts across Brooklyn. There's actually 1 shooting that we're handling that took place in Manhattan. You can see there's a red shot in Manhattan as well. I mean, if you look at these guns on the table, and by the way, these are not all the guns. These are just some of the guns that were recovered during this investigation. The governor showed you the gun that was used in one of a mass shooting in Brooklyn. But the 2 gangs today, they're part of Folk Nation. The ones that are part of this indictment is a subset called the Renegade Goons, and the other ones are called the Double O's. Their territories were marked in purple. Typically, we associate Folk very much with the old Vanderveers and Flatbush Gardens and Ebbett Field, but the damage that's done by this gang really takes, you know, all of Brooklyn. If you see, there's even 3 shootings in East New York. So this indictment today is going to have a tremendous impact on public safety. Much of the fighting is generational. Young folks don't really know why they're fighting with some of the other gangs they're fighting with. But there were 2 incidents in this case that really helped set out the violence. I'll talk about them quickly. There was a young man named Jamel Nicholson. He was killed in October of 2022. And about a year later, another young man, Lawrence Augustine, was killed in September of 2023. And after those two killings of folk members, the calls went out to retaliate against the rival gangs. And after each one of these shootings, we just saw continuously hunting parties. We call the term spinning the block or spinning for their gang, looking for rivals to shoot and to kill. In fact, just after Nicholson was killed, one of the defendants, Gabriel Modest, he was in Manhattan, Union Square, by the Regal Cinema. He saw a member of the Wu who was wearing clothing that identified him as a rival gang member, and that's the shooting that we're handling that took place in Manhattan. And they're proud of this. See, this is the part that may not be understandable to ordinary New Yorkers. They want to take credit for these shootings. They want the gang to be represented for having taken action against a rival. And so just while in jail, after committing this shooting, he bragged on a recorded jail call that he had boomed a Wu in his fallen comrade Nicholson's name. We charged that indictment, and we've been working with District Attorney Alvin Bragg and his office in that case. But the message delivered time and time again in this gang world is that violence begets violence. I've talked about it many times. If we don't stop a shooting, there's going to be cycles of retribution and retaliation. And what we've been hearing over and over again is that it's not enough to attend a funeral or to attend a vigil or to post on social media about how much you love the person. If you wanted to represent the gang, you have to go out and you have to commit an act of violence in the memory of the fallen gang member. We've seen these on social media. We've seen these on recorded calls, often from Rikers Island. Sometimes when phones are seized as part of investigations, we find the text messages. The continuous call to rep the gang by committing violence against rivals. In the days following Nicholson's homicide, one of the members in this indictment proclaimed from a jail call, one of them, Bay, gotta die. It's as simple as that. And when we're talking about Bay, they're talking about Sheepshead Bay because that's where that killing took place, Sheepshead Bay, Nostrand, in Gravesend. We'll play this phone call. I think this is an example. This is a recorded phone call from someone named Mark Oddie who was, in custody. The phone calls from September 2024. And I just want you to hear that even while in custody, he wants to make sure the gang continues to commit acts of violence to rep fallen gang members. It's just not good enough to mourn the passing of a gang member. You have to basically spill blood in their memory. So let's hear this recording and just let it reflect.
Yo, again, niggas cannot be piecing each other. Why the f*** y'all niggas piecing each other? I can't even go spin for y'all dead men. Just piecing up, all smoking, cool. Go spin for your dead man's gang. Somebody got to do this, gang. Me and G-Baby locked up. Somebody got to do this, gang. Y'all doing y'all money. That's one thing I always get. You just granted, boom. Other they don't do nothing, gang. Like, what is really around for, gang?
Yeah.
And the consequence to this, is deadly for us. 10 of the shootings charged in this indictment took place in broad daylight with many people around. We've seen that in other cases. A complete disregard for the public safety, disregard for people who have nothing to do with gang life. no consideration to how young children may be in the neighborhood. We've seen it over and over again. These are why these cases are so important, and I really, again, want to thank the prosecutors in my office and the detectives that are standing up here today for their hard work in solving these cases. It's important that these shootings get solved, and sometimes it takes a lot of hard work. And this incident that we're about to see is from 2024, but this is, an example of how dangerous this gang warfare is. This is a split screen. On the right-hand side, that's like Church Avenue. It's central Brooklyn, up there by Flatbush. There are people in the street. If you can see all the way to the top, I know it's a little hard to see, there's a bus station there. And right across from the bus station, there's a smoke shop. And that's what you're seeing on the left-hand side of the screen. So it's a little confusing, but basically, they're a bunch of guys. They're a rival gang. And they start to notice a bunch of folk gang members walking up Church. And there's obviously two women standing there. There's another woman by the bus stop. Things will happen quickly. We'll play it multiple times so you can get an idea. But this is the kind of gang warfare that's playing out on our streets. And this is the kind of thing that we're committed to stopping and holding these young men accountable. So what will transpire in a second is you will hear the young men that are in the smoke shop recognize a rival folk gang member coming up the block. They'll mention him by name. They'll start looking at one of those guys in the smoke shop will pull out a gun and begin to shoot. People will scatter, but one of the folk members on the other side by the bus stop will bend down, pull out his own gun, and return fire. This was a shootout in the middle of Church Avenue. Let's watch the video. There you go. Those are the guys coming, folk members. The gun's in his hand now. You can see it in the smoke shop. He starts to shoot. The glass shatters on the bus.
Yo, let me know. Yo, just put this in.
Knocked the two old ladies down.
Yo, let me know. Yo, let me in. Come on.
What's not as clear to see is that the woman who was standing in front of the bus stop was shot. 39-year-old woman, has nothing to do with this case, was shot in her upper thigh. Let's play that again, because there's a lot happening. The other thing is, after the shooting in the smoke shop, you actually could see the shooter tries to throw the gun behind the register, the counter of the smoke shop. That gun wasn't recovered, is recovered in this.
That's my left feet. That's my left feet. That's my left feet.
There you go to see the guy returning fire from the folks.
Yo, let me know. Yo, just
The woman who was shot was a woman wearing red that kind of ran.
Yo, let me know. Yo, let me in. Come on.
Anyway, more than 10 shots fired in this case. An innocent bystander hurt. And you would think that if you were members of the folk gang who just were almost killed, that this would be a moment of reflection. But there's a bunch of group text. These group texts basically are the next day, and one of the members of the crew that was out there that day says, "Yo, OMG, there's a video of the scene on Church, and then he sends a link to it. That's basically the news coverage of this shooting. I'm not going to play that again, but it's basically showing the same shooting. And it's like, Lefty pushed a granny out the way, OMG, I'm so weak, meaning they thought it was funny, LMFAO, LMAO, and then a big smiley emojis of them laughing about this incident where an innocent woman was shot, which they know because it was on the news coverage. See the next video. All right, this is July 15th. I continue to bring this issue to the press's attention because we have a continuous problem that when these young people come down to downtown Brooklyn, whether it's probation or parole or they have to have a court date, they come and they know that they may run into rivals. They come armed often. This is right here, J Street Metro Tech. Our office is basically where you're sitting now. It's about a half a block from here. There was a fight in the courthouse on that day between a member of folk and a rival gang. In fact, someone was cut during that fight in our courthouse. One of the guys who's associated with folk gets into an Uber. That's the car, not the SUV, the one that's furthest to the right, is stopped at a red light. He's left court. He's on his way back to wherever he's going. You'll start seeing four men run up the block, run up J Street, trying to catch up with him. He's in that black Uber sedan. All right, let's play the video. There he goes. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's giving him the middle fingers. They're fighting. Now this guy who has the mask on, he reaches into his waistband. He shoots 2 times, smashing the windshield. Fortunately, the driver was not struck by the bullet, and the passenger sustained injuries, but mostly from the glass shattering in his face. That's right here on Court Street. Continuously, this issue of violence that is being brought to our downtown Brooklyn because of this. All right, I'm going to get now to this homicide because this homicide is very troubling. This gang warfare has become very intense, and they are actually out hunting for people. We used to call it spinning the block, where they would go out and just shoot any rival, but they're actually looking for people and trying to assassinate them. And I'll say this is an assassination. It's April 27th, 2024. It's a barbershop. And you're gonna, we've condensed the video, but there's some guys out there. There's one particular guy who's a shooter. You'll see him. He's kind of decked out in a Nike outfit with a hood up and a complete face mask, and he's hanging out there. He continues to look inside the barbershop, waiting for the person that he wants to hurt to come out. So let's play the video. Here's our shooter approaching, peeking back into the barbershop again. They've been out there for about 20 minutes now. You see he's completely one of those Nike Tech outfits, head to toe, face mask, dark coat on over it. People going about. Eventually, the victim comes out of the barbershop. His car is that first car parked right there. It's the grayish colored car. And that's him, that's the poor victim. He is going to walk to his car and open the driver's side door to get in. The shooter is now going to run up on him. Here you go, you could see him running. He's on the street, he's in the street, he's running there, the circle is identifying him. And he's shooting. And as you can see, he basically is point blank shooting the guy. He shoots at least 5 times. The victim was shot multiple times. in the heart, his lungs perforated. He didn't stand a chance. He was assassinated right there. A 24-year-old man killed just leaving the barbershop. That, due to really good police work, that gun was in fact recovered that day. And we have it here. And I want to point that gun out because this gun here is the murder weapon. This is the murder weapon of this case, recovered that same day, ballistically matched and everything. We know that this is in fact a gun that was used to kill a 24-year-old man who had just gotten his hair cut. Thank you, Al. I'm going to show you the next video. A lot of these are in East New York now. These shootings are taking place. This is a deli bodega in East New York. It's January 5. It really shows you the reach of these gangs because when you saw the map, right, Folk is not really territorially in East New York, but a number of the shootings take place in East New York because they're out there hunting for rivals. And here's your shooter. He's all decked out again in sort of a Nike gray outfit, hood up. He has a complete face covering on. And like we saw during the COVID era, he's wearing gloves because they don't want to leave any kind of prints or DNA behind. And so completely dressed as an assassin. He's waiting for the victim. The victim in this case is a 16-year-old boy who's in the grocery store. Let's see what happens. You see he's completely covered. And they know there's cameras, so they look away, keep their head down, mask, gloves, hood. He enters the store. There's the victim, just shoots him multiple times. That's it, just runs in, shoots him. Good news is that the 16-year-old boy is going to survive that shooting, although he was shot multiple times. However, we talked about how these gangs want to get credit for what they've done. They want to keep score. And I think this was recorded actually on the shooter's own cell phone. So they're in the car, the getaway car. They're singing and rapping and celebrating the shooting. They had a successful hunt. Let's watch the video. You see the laser scope on the gun. 4 guys in the car, all armed, all celebrating that they think they've just killed a 16-year-old boy in the grocery store. Same clothing, same gloves, same mask, same hood. We executed a search warrant later on. That clothing was in fact recovered. All right. And then this is the last one. This is the last video I'm going to show. I mean, there was obviously 22 people shot. I could show you a lot of videos. This one is really infuriating. This is what I think really makes parents afraid to allow their kids to do anything. This is a birthday party, right? The venue is on Atlantic Avenue in East New York. It's a venue that typically has, you know, baby showers and baptisms and sometimes parties. Today is a Sweet 16. Young girl celebrating a birthday party. She invites a lot of friends to come to it. Most of the kids at the party are aged 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. But in that group of friends, there are some young boys who are associated with a rival crew to the Folk. And somehow the Folk guys find out about this Sweet 16 party. They travel great distance to get to this. They're not from the neighborhood. They travel a great distance to get to this party. And they're there for only one purpose, to shoot enemies. It's a split screen just to see it. So there's a bunch of kids mulling up in front of the birthday venue. That's the street corner. That would be, straight, if you were looking straight up the block, that's the street corner. You're going to see two guys, again, masked up, thinking that because they wear a mask that NYPD won't eventually catch them. One guy has a gun with a laser on it, and the other guy's carrying a gun, which the governor just showed you, which was that ghost gun. Let's see what happens. There they go, got their mask, got the guns in their hands, ready to go. You can see the laser as they're pointing, and they're shooting. They're just randomly shooting. I think they shot like 21 times, 21, 22 times they shot. They probably emptied out their guns. They didn't strike one or two of the kids. They, in fact, struck 6 teenagers. 3 of them were girls, 15 years old. 3 of the victims were 15. 2 were 16, and 1 was 17. 2 of the victims were shot multiple times in their bodies. They're all going to survive the shooting. The trauma will last forever. But I remember very clearly having to attend a meeting in East New York about a mass shooting that took place. These young men, in spite of their young age, and I should tell you that the shooters in this particular case are young. They were both 16 years old when they committed this shooting. Will face significant jail time for what they've done to our community. I think that's all that I have for you today in terms of the videos. This is an important case. I hope you see the depravity of the shootings, and I'm going to turn it over to Chief of Detectives, Joe Kenny, a good friend, to talk about the work that his team did in putting this together.
Thank you, Mr. DA. This case here is one of many cases that are ongoing right now involving multiple units within the NYPD, but just want to give specific shout out to the Gun Violence Suppression Unit, who last year did over 15 cases like this, over 200 people arrested, numerous guns seized. And I just want to take the time to thank them for the effort that they put out every day, day in and day out. They're missing time with their families. These are some of the most dangerous criminals in New York City. These cases are very complex, as you can see. This case began back in 2023, but the acts of violence that they investigated went back to 2022. And I know we're talking about the 22 subjects that were a part of this case, but overall, there was over 40 people involved in this case that were taken down during the course of this investigation with numerous guns taking place. What's fortunate for us is that each TPO, each occurrence that took place here is originally investigated by the local precinct detective squad. And unfortunately, they are bound by geography and they're catching other cases. And this is where the elite gun violence guys come in. And they don't have any boundaries. And they're not stuck to geography. They cover the entire city and they're able to track these cases down and take them to a successful conclusion. So I just wanted to take the time to thank them for their efforts. Thank you.
Are there any questions about the case? Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My question is to Chief Kenny, if you can go back through the December 2025 shooting. This was the last video that we saw. It's been a while. Is this the first arrest in that case? Have the suspects been at large this entire time?
So
Can you kind of walk us through that investigation?
the investigation, like I said, starts with the numbered squad, and as they go through their investigation, that those occurrences will be included in this overall investigation. So as people are identified in acts of violence, for argument's sake, a shooting, a homicide, or a shots fired job, they will be arrested, they will be arraigned, they will be charged, and as you can see in this case, 7 of the subjects in this case are already in jail, and they're being brought out and produced to be recharged in the acts of violence connected to this case. So my message to the perpetrators here is that you may have committed an act of violence 5-6 years ago that you're currently in jail for. Don't think you're safe, because we're still investigating you and we still will bring you out and rearrest you.
I'll clarify. The answer is yes. These 2 individuals had not been identified prior to solving it in this case. And I think one of them may still be actually on the run right now. Okay, thank you. Yes.
I'm wondering if you can talk about kind of the impact on the folk gang and how this takedown, you said that, their chiefs go back generations, how this takedown impacts the future of this particular gang in Brooklyn.
Yeah, so in a lot of ways. First, these are some of the most violent people because these are the people who are shooting, right? This is not a gang sweep. We're not arresting anyone who's affiliated with gangs. These men, 17 of the 22 have actually pulled the trigger. Some of those 17 have pulled the trigger on multiple occasions. But what we also see, Flatbush Gardens is a big housing development, right? There are a lot of families there and a lot of hardworking, good people. And when you went to that, can you go back to the map, Lauren? When you look at the map and you look at the amount of shootings that just took place in this 2-year kind of span where we're looking at this, Flatbush Gardens, look at all the shootings right around Flatbush Gardens. It's right there. That's Flatbush Gardens. Look at all the shootings, all the trauma that the families have to go through of these hardworking people because these guys are out there. They've caused a lot of havoc, and so people are coming and shooting at them as well. So when we get them off the streets, we'll prevent these continuous cycles of retaliation. So I think this is going to have a tremendous impact. And, I talked about the 2 other cases, right? Because we did one in Brooklyn South, which is like in the Coney Island area, because there was a lot of shootings there. We've done one in Brownsville. So we've done East Brooklyn, we've done South Brooklyn, we're doing Central Brooklyn. Cumulatively, we're looking at the gangs, we're making decisions about what's the next case to do to try to make sure as many people in Brooklyn can avoid this violence. But when you take down a group like the Folk Nation that are historically kind of, really centered in 2 particular areas, Ebbets Field and Flatbush Gardens, it's safer for the people who live there because they won't have to worry about some other rival coming into their neighborhood looking to shoot those gang members. Yes?
Yeah, are gangs, is this escalating, like, is gang membership getting bigger, or are there more gangs being formed out there?
I don't know the answer. I'll let the chief answer that, but I will say this. What it really comes down to, and I've called it the peace dividend, when you stop that first shooting, and whether it's our violence interrupters de-escalating things on the streets or the detectives making arrests and putting handcuffs, it prevents the next shooting. And so what we need to make sure that we're doing is that solving the cases. What's different about these cases is that they're historical. It's what the chief was saying. Like, they thought they got away with it. It's 2 years ago. No one got arrested. But now we're coming back and solving these cases, so it makes a tremendous difference. In terms of gang, whether they're growing or not, I'll let the chief answer that. But I do have one reflection on that. What I'm seeing, and I've done this, again, for a long time, is that the people pulling the triggers are getting younger and younger, right? We're looking at people pulling triggers at 14 years and 15 years and 16 years. Like, when I was a young prosecutor, the average age of my gang defendants were 23 to 26, and they were doing the damage. That mass shooting that we just had in East New York, the shooters are 16, both of them, and they're shooting 15-year-olds. So, Chief?
As far as the exact number, whether or not the gangs are growing, that's hard to state because of the criteria that we have to enter somebody into the criminal group database. So as of right now, based on our database, there are over 500 different gangs or crews right now operating in New York City. But we keep that strict criteria. We're not just dumping people into that database. So as far as giving you, a number, I can only base it on the acts of violence that we're seeing. And as right now, over like 60% of our homicides and non-fatal shootings are connected to either a gang or crew nexus.
All right. One more question.
Hi, 2 questions regarding the legislation mentioned. First, can you discuss the impact, the monumental impact the legislation is regarding the 3D printed guns? We did talk to DA Bragg about that about a week or so ago, and how it could be a total game changer, not only for New York and the nation, and just the impact with the nature of your investigations. The second part of that question is, can you explain to us what the legislation was with regard to
Yeah, so I'll handle the legislation because, you know, a few years ago, the legislature with the governor's help passed to make ghost guns per se illegal. So when someone is arrested with a ghost gun, we can prosecute those cases. But the issue that we're seeing, right, and the police can tell you this, I can tell you this, I have a unit in my office that only investigates ghost guns, right? So they're looking at people who are selling the parts. You know, in the old days, they would sell them online, people would mail them, and they would make them in their house. And we really started to crack down. And we had really started to make a lot of effort in tracking, working with the postal inspectors and with other technology we had to see when these ghost gun parts were being shipped through mail or FedEx or UPS. And we started to crack down on those networks. But then 3D printing became cheaper and more popular, and somehow they allowed to be put in sort of the internet, the directions by how you can print a 3D gun. And I think it was last year, it might have been a year and a half ago now, there was a kid in a public high school in Brooklyn who printed a 3D gun in his classroom because the software is online. So what the governor has done is said that it's illegal to sell a 3D printer that will allow that person to print a 3D gun in the home. And we have done search warrants, and people are printing guns in their homes. So they're printing them on the kitchen table. This is not an exaggeration. We had an arrest, I think, 2 weeks ago where it was 18 or 19 guns were just piled up as the person was printing them. So the legislation is saying if you're going to sell a 3D printer in New York State, that you have to install software. Right? It's just firmware on the thing that says it won't allow you to print a 3D gun. I think it's a game changer. Myself and DA Bragg sent a letter last week to 3D printers, reminding them of the new law and that is going into effect, and that we're going to be looking to hold them accountable for violating the law. So I think it's a tremendous game changer because now, even if you have a 3D printer, if they follow the law, and I hope they will, and I hope they don't challenge the law, if they follow the law, it won't be easy to print a 3D gun. That gun that we just saw is a gun printed that shot, teenagers. So I'm hopeful that will keep us safer. In terms of discovery law, I think the import for us where we were getting too many cases dismissed, not on the merits, not because it was the right thing or the fair thing to do, but because if there was a simple piece of paper, a document that was not turned over timely, it meant that the case automatically, by operation of law, got dismissed. And what it now allows judges to do is to say, was the document that was not turned over or was missing, first of all, was it an important piece of paper? Did it matter at all to the case? But secondly, was the ADA exercising due diligence in trying to get the materials? Because sometimes the materials are not in our possession. We subpoena records from Meta. We subpoena records from other companies. If you're at a private doctor, we have to send a subpoena to get those medical records because we don't have any right to those medical records unless a doctor. And when we send medical record requests to private hospitals, we get put on the queue. And sometimes it takes a long time to get it. And we were losing cases simply because the statute was written too difficultly. And so what the governor did is a common sense approach and says a judge will have the discretion now to see whether or not the prosecutor exercised good faith and due diligence. And if they did, the case doesn't have to get dismissed. We've seen the benefit already in this county where many, many fewer cases are getting dismissed. Thank you, everyone.